Hi everyone, I'm AHAMED meeting y'all on Lankan Mentor with a new lesson. Today we'll be discussing the 9th chapter of Grade 10 ICT, Database. So before we start our lesson, I recommend y'all to take your textbooks close to you so that you can refer to the examples that I mentioned in the video. And if you don't have a textbook, if you can't find the Grade 10 ICT book, or if you don't have the Chapter 9 with you, then you can download the Chapter 9 PDF on the link provided in the description. Alright, let's move on to the lesson. So, we are here to discuss database today. So, what do you mean by a database? Simply, database is a collection of data. That is what the book says, right? That's what the book says. So, simply put, a database is a collection of data that we store for later reference, right? So, later we can retrieve that data. Later we can get that data for our own referencing. Alright? So now, in a database, there is manual database and electronic database. Now, nowadays, earlier there was only manual database. Manual database means the database that is maintained by humans, written by humans, everything is done by humans, human beings. But electronic database, on the other hand, is different. Electronic database means it is a computerized database, right? So now, if we talk about having a database, why do we need a database? Simply, I can say like database is like a cupboard, right? Like a cupboard. Okay, so this is a cupboard, I don't know. Okay, so it's like a cupboard, a file cupboard, let's say, a cupboard full of data or information, right? There'll be folders inside that, there'll be files. So just like that, we can simply say database is a collection of files. Now, according to this example, right? So now, if we talk about the advantages of having a database, then we have ample advantages, right? We'll look into those advantages one by one. Okay, so the advantages of a database, the main advantage is efficient storage. You can store data in a database for a long time, right? And as much as you want. And if it is an electronic database, then you can store ample data, right? Millions of files in just one small place. Right? We'll discuss manual and electronic database later. So I'm just discussing the common advantages now. Alright? So first thing, efficiency in retrieving information. Now, if we have a database, then the database would be separated. Like this section is for storing files from, let's say, your school, right? If you take the example of your school, then storing files of grade 1. Let's say this is grade 1, right? Again, this section is for grade 2. This section is for grade 3, right? Just like that, you can separate and then you can store files. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another file, another file. So just like that, grade 3 files, okay, so and so. Then, when you're storing, if you store this in a methodical way, right? If you store your data in a methodical way, then you can retrieve that data methodically as well, right? Retrieving is also easy and it is efficient. You don't have to go on searching everywhere, right? Let's say if you don't have a management, right? If you don't have an organization like this, if you haven't organized your files, then it's going to be a headache. Why? Let's say you have put grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to A levels all into one cupboard without separating. Now, it would be a nightmare for you to find a file there. Won't it be? Right? So, to make this thing easier, right, to make efficient retrieval, we organize our files in a database. Simply that. Right? Number 2, it is easy to get copies. Now, you can refer your book for these advantages. It's there in your book. Right? It is easy to get copies. What do you mean by that? Now, let's say, now this is regarding the electronic database, right? Easy to get copies. It refers to the electronic database, right? So, most of the advantages referred here is talking about the electronic database, right? So, easy to get copies means, now if it is computerized, you don't have to take a file to the photocopy machine and then take a copy, right? If it is in a computer, you don't need that. If it's in a computer, you just right click on the file, copy and then paste it. As simple as that, isn't it? Now you have done copying and pasting, not in a database but in your computer, even in your phone you might have done that, right? So easy to get copies, that is an advantage to talk about electronic database, right? Number 3, small physical space needed. Now, what do you mean by small physical space? Physical space means whatever the space that we have, right, physically. So, small physical space here refers to a computer or a pen drive or a hard disk, anything. Now, take a computer, desktop computer, let's say. Now, desktop computer will have a system unit, a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse, right? Those are the components. So, how much space would it take? Maximum half of a table, right? Or else if there is a computer table, then that much. Only that, and you can start storing millions of files. That's the advantage, right? Physical space is very small, right? Now just think, if you want to store 2 million files, right? 2 million files in your school office, right? 2 million files in your school office. How many cupboards you might need? How many cupboards might you need? You might need around, I don't know, around 5, 6 or maybe 10 cupboards, 10 file cupboards to store all those 2 million files, even that, compressing and all, right? So you see, for those 10 cupboards, how much space do you have to allocate? It's a wastage if you compare it to electronic database, because for electronic database, you only need one laptop or a computer or even a smartphone, right? One smartphone is enough to store more than 2 million. There is no limit, right? As much as the storage capacity of your computer is available, you can store as much files as you want. Alright, so that is a very, okay, think about a phone, a smartphone. That's a very small physical space. You can put it in your pocket. So your pocket has more than 2 million files then, right? Your pocket has 2 million files. So that is amazing, right? Yeah, that is ICT. Okay, so again, that's an advantage. And number 4, we have to talk about efficient data analysis. Data analysis means it is like we're talking about doing research with the data, right? We can have a report generated from whatever the data we collected. Let's say there is a whole database of information regarding all the students in your school, right? So let's say we are going to filter the students who are aged between 10 and 15, let's say. That is easy. If you have a computerized database, again, you can just filter out okay, the students who are between the age of 10 and 15, because you have already stored all the information about all the students of your school in the database. So the data analysis is very easy. Now analyzing is that. Okay, you can find out now. You can find, okay, in your O levels, right? When you come to grade 10, you have an option asking, okay, your teachers would ask you, what are you going to choose in grade 9? Right? What are you going to choose? Is it health and physical science, or health and physical education, or is it ICT as a basket subject? So then, what are you going to choose? There is an option for you. Now, let's say you have chosen ICT, alright? You have obviously chosen ICT, you are watching this. So, let's say the school administration wants to filter out all the students from grade 10 and 11 who have selected ICT for their O levels. Even that is very easy, that can be done within a minute, right? You can filter out all the students who are doing ICT as their basket subject, apart from HPE, the health subject, and then they can get a printout of all the students, all the details of the students. That's very easy. Now, think of a manual system. Let's say if your teacher has written it somewhere on a book or a record book or somewhere, then it's going to take a while, right? The teacher has to go through, okay, these students have taken ICT, okay, then if you want to take a copy of those students who have taken ICT, then she has to go through many classes. Now, let's say if you are in grade 10 and grade 10 A, B, C, D, E is there in your school, so from all 5 classes, there may be a set of students who are selecting ICT. So again, they have to filter out, okay, from this class, this much students, these are the names, these are the, okay. So filtering in a manual database is a bit difficult, right? Difficult means time consuming, and it's not as much convenient as using an electronic database. And that is the idea there. And number 5, you have one database for many apps. What does it say? Now in your book it says one database for many apps. Now that point refers like this. Now let's say you have a database, right? We just draw it like this. This is a database, okay? So this database can be used by many applications. What does it mean? Now you will have a database at school, right? So the school teacher will have a application, right? Let's say school teacher has an app, right? This app, right? School teacher has an app to mark your attendance in the morning. Let's say before the school starts or before the lessons are started, your school teacher has an app which shows each and every student's name and a small checkbox beside that to mark whether a student is present or absent. That is computerized, let's say, right? So that app will be with the teacher. That app will be controlled by the teacher's computer. So teacher will be having a laptop, let's say, that's in your classroom. So each and every teacher will be updating their data, but all of these data will come into one database, right? All of these data will come into one database, and this database is stored in the office computer, right? So that computer will be called as the server computer, right? So the server computer will have this database, so the main database. So what will happen when each and every teacher in each and every class is updating the data? Those data will get updated in the server machine, the database in the office, right? The main computer. So let's say another application. Now, for example, the sectional heads, right? Sectional heads will have another application. What is it used for? To find out about teachers, right? Which teachers are assigned with which subjects, and which teachers are assigned with which classes, and so, right? So that application would be with the sectional head. This is for sectional heads, and this app is for teachers, class teachers. So this app would be different, right? You can search about each and every teacher and their subject. Let's say this app will also be connected to the same database, right? Same database will contain information about teachers, but in a different table. These databases, they have tables, just like in Excel, just like in a spreadsheet software. You have tables in a database. So one table will contain information about students, right? Let's say another table contains information about teachers. So there will be different tables containing different data about different needs, right? So you see, many applications are using one database. That is what it says. Right now, let's say if you are using a manual database, like what we discussed earlier, if you are using a manual database, then that is difficult. Now, the whole database will be in the office, right? Like, okay, now consider this. This is the electronic database structure. This is different. Alright, this electronic database is in the office, it's in the server. So these applications are connected. That is electron, right? If you consider manual, then that's a bit difficult. Why? Now all of the databases will be there in cupboards. Cupboards in where? Office. Right? Let's say this is the office. Right? This is the office building. And these are classrooms. Now each and every teacher has to come to the office to collect the register. That is what is happening here. Right? Even in Sri Lanka, that is what happens, right? Early in the morning, somebody has to go to pick the register and record book. Now, why is that? Because the whole database is stored in the office, right? So you have cupboards, then that is a bit difficult. You have to go there always if you have a necessity of going through information, right? But if it is automated, if it is connected to an electronic database, then the story is different, right? You can access data from anywhere around the school. If you have connected your computer to the office computer, right? That is the advantage of having an electronic database, right? Okay. And another thing, independence of data. Now, what is independence? Let's say, I'll explain what is independence. Now, this is Rashid and Rashid. So, it's my name, right? So, this is how I spell my name, right? Now, let's say the teachers at my school, let's say I'm a student, right? Teachers at my school have recorded my name as this. But in my NIC card, right, in my national identity card, it says RAA or AASHID. But at school, they have recorded it as a single A. Now, if they want to change my name, right, they want to change the spelling of my name, then if it is a manual system, think about it. They'll have to find all the files that contains my name, right? And they have to use a correction pen. They have to erase it or get a new document and write everything from the beginning. Why? Because if you erase it and write, it will be ugly, right? So changing is difficult in a manual database. But if it is an electronic database, you can simply find my name. Okay, the previous name was this. All right, my NIC number is this. Okay, confirmation done. Okay, this is the record. So maybe my data will be available in many tables inside that database. Now let's say I participate in competitions. So let's say there is another table storing information about students who participated in competitions. So even my name would be there in the competitions table if I had participated, right? My name will be there in the students table. Okay, if I was a monitor of the class, then my name will be there in the monitor table list, right? If I was a prefect, then again my name will be there in the prefects table. So they have to change my name everywhere, right? But if it is an electronic database, you only have to change in one place. If you change in one place, everywhere else will get changed. That is the advantage, right? If you change my name in the students table, and if the students table is connected to other tables, automatically when you change my name in the student table, my name will get changed in all the other tables wherever my name is connected, right? So that is another big advantage of having an electronic database, right? Okay, so those are some advantages that we have to discuss about databases, all right? Okay, next we'll discuss about the features of a database. Features. Again, you have those features in your textbook. You better refer them when I'm explaining, right? So among the features, the first feature that is given in your book is minimal data redundancy. What do you mean by data redundancy? Redundancy means repeating data, right? Redundant is repeating elsewhere. So minimal data redundancy means your data will not repeat again and again unnecessarily, right? Unnecessarily means, for example, let's say there is a application form, right? That is an application form, or else a report, let's say, right? Like a paper. There, my name is there, my grade, school, address, home address, age, or date of birth, whatever, contact information. Then my first term marks, right, at school. This subject, so and so, marks, right? That is for the first term subjects and their marks, right? That is the marks of first term, right? Now, the whole data, my name, my grade, my school, my home address, my telephone number, my date of birth, these data will be the same in my second term also, right? Now if they are printing another report for the second term, now this is first term marks, right? This is one paper, first term marks. Where is the second term again? They'll have to print another sheet with all the previous data. I'm the same person, right? I'm the same person, I'm having the same name, same date of birth, so and so. But still, if they use this format to identify a student, then they'll have to write all these details in another paper, right? So, to reduce this, they have brought a system with what? Index number. Now, each and every student who enrolls into a school will have an index number or admission number, right? So, they'll just mark the name and admission number without putting all these details. So, where will they put all these details then? They'll have a separate file, put all your data, right? To put your data with the index number or admission number. So if you search for the admission number, you can find out the bio data, right? The name, address, home, telephone number, whatever. Okay, those data can be found in a separate file. So that is the method in a database to reduce data redundancy, or else my data, my bio data will have been repeated many times, right? That is minimal data redundancy. That is the same in computerized systems, right? You can reduce data as much as possible, right? So we have certain mechanisms to reduce data. We'll learn that, right? And next point, data consistency. What do you mean by consistency? Data is constant or uniform all over, right? You can rely on that. You can rely on the data. It will be there forever, right? And it won't change as long as you change it, right? Data will be constant. Data will be uniform everywhere. That is data consistency. Okay, the data will not change unless you change it. Okay, right. The third point, it increases efficiency. What do you mean by efficiency? Earlier we discussed this. Efficiency means storing and retrieving, right? Storing and retrieving is easier with a database. Now why? If you have an electronic database, then you can just type in some stuff, right? You can store it. Again, if you want to search for something, let's say a student's information, you just type in the admission number of the student, all the details will appear. Now most of the schools they have, not most of the schools, few schools they have a computerized database, right? So it's easy to find information with a computerized database. If you just type the admission number of the student, and all the details will pop up, every related detail, right? Every related information will come up just using the admission number. Or even the teachers might have a teacher's ID number. So if they type the teacher's ID number, then all the information regarding that teacher will be shown in the computer. So that is again an advantage, right? So that is a feature of a database. It increases efficiency. Okay, you don't have to keep on turning books or files like manual databases. Alright? Okay, the other advantage is it increases accuracy. Now, accuracy means it should be correct, right? 100% correct, or at least 99.99% correct, right? So, you see, if it increases accuracy, what does it mean? Sometimes humans can make mistakes, they can misplace files, right? If it is a manual database, we can misplace files. Files may be here and there, right? We might miss them. But if it is an electronic database, we can't miss files because it is not thrown anywhere, it's in the computer, right? It cannot get misplaced. Okay, that is again, it increases accuracy, that's what it means. Okay, it increases the accuracy of data by making sure the data is correct. Now, what I said was misplacing, but misplacing is one point of having accurate data, right? Now, the word accuracy here means data will be 100% correct. Sometimes people make mistakes while writing something, right? Even when you are typing something, you may make mistakes. But there are certain rules that you can set up in an electronic database so that there is no mistakes, right? There are certain constraints. We'll learn that. So they are called constraints, right? So constraints, they will ensure your data is filled or data is accurate, right? So you don't have to worry about misinformation with an electronic database. Okay, so the next feature of a database is that it increases validity. Validity means, for example, now let's say the same example that I've been talking about. If you are entering student information into a database, right? The details of a student, for example. Now, if you are entering the student's name, fine. There will be a first name, middle name, or last name, right? And then the student's date of birth, okay, and home address, telephone number, and so and so. So let's say, for example, when you are entering the date of birth, right? You are almost, let's say, if you are entering the information of a student who has been admitted to the school for grade 1. So grade 1 means the student should at least be 5 years old, right? So let's say if this is the year 2020, then if you are entering the date of birth as 1992, let's say 1992 means that is something valid, right? But that is too much for a grade 1 student, isn't it? Now that is one validation, right? There'll be a problem when you are entering so much different data, because 2020 means this child who is being admitted to the school is grade 1, then there should be a 5 years gap, right? Maybe 2015 or 2014 is fine, but 1992 means it's like the person has already completed school, right? Then there will be a problem entering such data. Or else, let's say this is 2020, and if you enter the date of birth as 2021, then again the database will not accept that data. There will be a validation problem, that is validity, right? Database will not accept data that is not valid. Now, for example, now take Sri Lanka, we have telephone numbers, right? Mobile phone numbers and so on. So there is a 10-digit number for each and every telephone or mobile phone, right? The phone number is 10 digit long, 10 digits should be there. Now, if you enter only 8 digits or 9 digits, let's say you by mistake only you didn't type 2 numbers, and if you just type 8 numbers for telephone number, and if you submit, the data will not get submitted. There will be an error. It would say this field is missing 2 more numbers, or this field is incomplete. The database would not accept that data. Why? Because that phone number is not valid, because if it is a valid phone number, then there should be 10 digits, right? So that is validity of information in a database. So you see, when you are entering data into a database will only accept data that is valid, right? Therefore, you can rely on that information, because database accepts only valid data, which means valid data is only valid data is available in the database. So that is a most important feature of this electronic database, right? If it is manual database, then මිනිස්සු ලියනකොට ගොඩාක් මේ වැරදීමක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි here it is different, right? Here even though if humans make mistakes while typing, the database will not accept. But manually, when people are writing, sometimes there may be mistakes. Okay, that's a good feature of a database, right? And the next feature is the security, right? Normally, you can secure a database, right? You can secure a database using passwords, right? Using passwords, and these databases have an encryption technology. Now, encryption is a different kind of security mechanism. Now, you might not have heard this before. Right? Encryption, it changes the data. Right? When you secure your data using encryption, it changes your data into an unreadable format. Right? Change your data into an unreadable format. Then, let's say, for example, I'll tell you an example. Now, let's say you have some diamond, diamond rings, right? 2 diamond rings. Okay, so you want to give it to your sister or brother in a faraway place. Let's say you're in Kandy and the sister or brother is in Colombo, right? So from Kandy to Colombo there is around let's say around 100 kilometers, right? There's more than 100 kilometers, right? So let's say it's a 100-kilometer gap, right? So you're unable to go to Colombo, you're in Kandy now, and you want to give these 2 diamond rings to your sister or brother, sister in Colombo, because that's a diamond ring, so brothers, they don't wear rings. Okay, so then you're a brother and you're going to send these 2 rings to your sister in Colombo. Now, but if you can't go there, you can't go to Colombo, but today you will have to send it. Now this is very expensive stuff, diamond ring. So you can't send it via post also. Sometimes the postman himself might rob it, right? So for these kind of transactions, you can find a person who is, now let's say you are finding a person who goes to Colombo today, right? You know of a person, but you don't trust him, right? You know of a person who goes to Colombo, but you don't trust him, right? So what are you going to do then? You're having the diamond ring in your hand, okay? You're asking the person who is going to Colombo whether he can take a parcel, whether he can deliver a parcel to Colombo. You're not saying what is inside the parcel, right? So if the person says okay, then what are you going to do? You can conceal it somewhere, right? Let's say you're concealing your diamond ring into some other format, right? Let's say you're putting it inside let's say some plastic bag, right? You're putting inside a plastic bag, and then inside that plastic bag you're putting some other nails also, right? Some nails, some hooks, right? So a lot of metals, right? You are putting a lot of metals and giving a whole ball of metals, right? And in the middle you have placed your diamond rings. Okay, it's just like junk. It's not, nothing is there, right? If the person who takes the parcel, if he opens and sees, it's only junk, right? Metal parts. Okay, you close the plastic bag, you wrap it in another polythene or something and give it to the person. Now what will that person do? Now when the person is taking it to Colombo from Kandy, right? If the person who is taking it, if he opens the parcel and see, he can't find the diamond ring at once. What would he find if he just looks outside, right? If he breaks the plastic bag, then he might get caught. So he's just looking, okay, what is there inside? What is there? Metal scrap, right? That is metal. Okay, pieces of metal. I don't know why this person is sending these things from Kandy to Colombo. I think api andura kenek ni. Api aran genya demu. Kila meya hitagena he is delivering, right? So he is taking the parcel from Kandy to Colombo, right? So this third person even though in the middle, when he opened the parcel, he couldn't find the diamond ring. Why? Because it is concealed within metal scraps, right? So after the person who receives it in Colombo, who is the person receiving it in Colombo? The brother's sister, right? The person who sent, he would have told his sister to pick it up. Okay, that is now in an encrypted format, right? So the sister knows what her brother did to the rings, right? She knows that there are two diamond rings inside the parcel. So she would take it home. She would thank the person who brought it. Okay, thank you for bringing these things. At home, she'll open the parcel. Okay, put everything on a table and find her diamond rings. The two rings will be there. Okay, so she'll pick those two diamond rings and then just put aside all the other metal scraps. So you see, at the beginning, right, the person who sent the rings from Kandy, he encrypted the data. The data was the diamond ring, right? He encrypted the diamond ring with some other unreadable format. He made it into an unreadable format. He put all the rubbish and made some rubbish, right? It is rubbish. So you can't identify what is data there, what is the data there. So the person encrypted those diamond rings and sent it. So while it was in transit, while it was traveling, even though some people tried to open and see, they will also see rubbish, right? They can't find specific information. So nothing will happen to the data when the data is received at the other end. When it was received at the other end, that data, that encrypted data, was decrypted. Right? That encrypted data was decrypted. Decrypted means from the unreadable format, bringing it again back to the readable format. So the person cleaned everything and picked those two diamond rings, right? So you see, if it was not encrypted, it is not safe, right? Because you are giving it to a third person, you are not trusting that person also. So sometimes that person might run away with those two diamond rings, right? So that is why we encrypt our data. For example, I'll tell you a practical example. Let's say I have the word hello here. If I encrypt hello, let's say hello will become like this: 7 hash plus 3. Can you read anything? Can you read this? This is encrypted. 7 hash plus 3. What is 7 here? 7 is H. Hash is E plus L 3 O. Now only I know this, right? Only myself, only I know that this is H, this is E, and so and so. You don't know, right? Now if I type a whole paragraph in this format, you can't understand because I have encrypted it. Okay? So if I want to send a message to a person in secret, I will encrypt my message and send it. So in the middle, if somebody tries to read my message, nobody can read the message, right? So what do you have to do to make it readable? Decrypt it, right? So you put your encrypted data, that is hash plus 3. So this, when you decrypt it, again it becomes hello, right? It becomes hello. It changes into a readable format. That is encryption and decryption. So encryption and decryption is available in databases. So it is secure. Your data is always secure in a database, right? You can protect it with a password which supports encryption, right? So even if somebody tries to hack into your database, even if somebody tries to steal your database, without the decryption code, they cannot take any data, right? They cannot see any of your data. So those are important features of database that we have discussed. All right? Okay, now we are going to discuss about the comparison of electronic database with the manual database, right? So, see, if it is manual, then there is a lot of advantages and disadvantages. Mostly, if we are going to compare, then we are going to find a lot of disadvantages, because electronic databases, they have a lot of advantages over the manual system, right? So, you see, if we consider each and every point, now turn to your book, right? It's there in your book, all those points are given, right? I'll discuss each and every point, right? The first point is that it says it is less efficient. What is less efficient? Manual database is less efficient, which means when you are storing, you'll have to keep on writing. Sometimes if you make mistakes, you'll have to find a correction pen, right? Correction pen means what do you call as Tipex, right? Tipex, it's not Tipex, it's correction pen. So I don't know why they call it Tipex. You might need those things if you make mistakes. But if you use an electronic database, when you are entering data, if you make mistakes, you can delete it, type again, no problem. Again, if you are retrieving data, you can search easily. You can just type some name, right? You don't have to even type the full name. If you type partially, then the whole data will be displayed, right? You don't have to keep on going through manual files. If it is in the manual database, then you will have to go through many files to find a particular data, right? Let's say if you are out of school, right? You have gone out of school after A-levels, and after around 5 or 6 years you are coming back to get your leaving certificate and your birth certificate of so and so. So what would be the case now? Your file might be somewhere, right? Somewhere at school, in an old cupboard or somewhere. So the secretary or the person at the office, he has to go through a lot of files to find your document, right? So that would be a headache if they are going to search a file that was 10 or 15 years old, right? So manual system is less efficient. That is what it says, right? What it means. And number two, it is less accurate. Manual systems are less accurate, whereas electronic systems are highly accurate. Why? Because in manual systems, as I told you again, when humans are writing stuff, humans are entering data, there is possibility of making mistakes. But when you are entering data into a database, there are validation checks, right? So data will be much accurate than a manual system, right? There is very less possibility of errors when you are using electronic databases, right? Number three, manual database is not much credible. What do you mean by credible? Now I told you, if it is not accurate, then it is not credible, not reliable. Rely means you can trust on that. So if it is not accurate, then can you trust on that? No. If a person lies to you and you know that person is lying, එන මොහොම අහගෙන ඉන්නවා. ඔව් කියන්නකෝ. ඔව්. ඇයි අපි දන්නවනේ උන් කියන්නේ බොරු දීක තියලා. Alright? So we know, if we know that the person is lying, then we keep on listening. Yes, yes. Yeah, okay, fine. So and so. Why? Why do we keep on listening? Because we know that the person is lying, right? So you see, after that, will you trust that person? No. Same thing here. If there is a accuracy problem with manual systems, right? If the manual database is not accurate, then you can't trust that. You can't rely on that. So it is not credible. But again, on the other hand, electronic databases are much accurate, right? They have very less errors. So you can trust them. You can rely on those tables, right? We can trust a machine rather than trusting a human being. There are trust issues, right? Even you can't trust your own friend these days, but there are good friends, right? I'm not saying every friend is a false friend, right? But you see, there are faces now, right? In this world, there is different faces. You got to find out who is your real friend and who is a fake friend. So just like that. In databases, electronic database is a thing that you have to consider, right? Because it is reliable. Okay, right. Another comparison that you have to make is that if you consider manual database, analysis is difficult. Now I discussed that earlier, right? I told you when you're analyzing data, it is easier in electronic database rather than in manual databases. Now let's say if you want to consider if you want to compare marks of 100 students, let's say you want to put them in the ascending order, right? The mark 100 students, right? Let's say you are selecting 100 students, the ICT marks of 100 students. You have to put them in the ascending order. Now, what are you going to do? You're asking every student to tell their marks. You'll write it first, and then after that you have to find, okay, now this student has taken 100, okay, after 100 you have to find 99. Is there any 99? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You have to go through all the other 99 students. Why? Whether any student has taken 99 marks. මට මතකයි එක්කෙනෙක් 98ක් ගන්නත් 98ක් තිබ්බා. මට එන්න බලමු. She's searching for 98 now. Again 98. There was a student, I can remember. Okay, where is 98? 98. This is a student. Okay, she's going to write it. So from all the 100 students, right, if you want to put it in an ascending order or descending order, then it's going to be a headache, right, for the teacher. So here, if you have an electronic database, analysis is easy, right? You just have to select students who are selecting ICT, okay, all the 100 students will be there, put it to descending order, one click, done, all in descending order. It's possible, right? Even in your Microsoft computer or even Apple computer or whatever the computer, you can sort out, right? Put in ascending order or descending order, alphabetical order, number order, whatever. You can sort your data into whatever the format you want. That is an advantage of having sorting, right? So that is analysis, all right? And next point is that if you consider a manual database, let's say there is a ledger, right? Ledger to write down the information of students. Now let's say in grade 11, the student names of grade 11 students. So let's say each and every page, one page is allocated for one student. Let's say the records of one student and so and so. So one page for one student means, let's say the teacher has bought a big exercise book or something, right? And then the teacher has written all the data of each and every student in one page. let's say a student left the school, right? The student left the school for another school. Now what are you going to do with that page? Can you remove that? Because on the other side, the other student might be there. That page will remain there. And if another student comes, right? If another student comes, that student has to be added to the back side where the last student was. After the last student, the new student will be added. Okay? So, even in the database, you can delete a record fully. So, in a manual database, although one student left the school, the data cannot be removed because there is some other data sticking onto it. Right? Some data of some other students are on the other side of that page. So you can't remove that student, or you can't remove that information of that student easily. But when you go to an electronic database, when you use an electronic database, it's easy, right? You can store or delete, no problem, wherever you want, right? If a student left, okay, that data will be deleted, then you get space. Okay, even in computers, you have storage space, right? So when a student leaves, you delete that data, which means you get some more space, right? And on the other hand, if you have a data to enter, if you want to select a place and enter, no problem, you can enter data anywhere you want, just like in a computer, right? Now you can create folders anywhere, right? You can create folders anywhere, you can store files anywhere, simply, just like that. Okay? So that is entering and deleting, or storing and deleting data from database, right? Okay. Now, I told you about entering and deleting. What about updating? Let's say, I discussed this earlier also. When I am changing my name, if there is a spelling error in my name, then they'll have to use a correction pin again, right? AKA Tipex, right? They'll have to use a correction pin and erase it everywhere and then write again. It's ugly, right? If you do that. But if you want to update my spelling on an electronic database, then you don't have to use a correction pin. You will just have to type my correct spelling, and then you just have to submit my data. Then the data will be updated in the database. As simple as that, right? So even updating data is easier when you use an electronic database, right? And when you are using manual databases, as we discussed earlier, we might need multiple storage spaces, right? Multiple storage spaces. Now, you might need a lot of cupboards, right? So a lot of cupboard means, again, you will need a lot of file covers, and then you'll need to have these padlocks or even these other locks to protect your cupboards, so and so, right? So as I told you, the earlier example, 2 million files. If you want to store 2 million files, then you will need at least 10 cupboards. Then 10 file cupboard means that's a large space, isn't it? So you see, the same thing, right? The same 2 million files, if it is stored in an electronic database, then you only need a computer. It can be a smartphone, a laptop, or even a desktop computer. Let's say it is a desktop computer, maximum it would take the half of a table. That's all, right? So a lot of data can be stored. Now take your school for example. In your school, the data of each and every student, now documents of each and every student, the birth certificate, right? The letters or your biodata and everything, those documents will be stored in a file cover with your index number or the admission number, and then they will be storing it in the office with your admission number. So let's say if they want to store files of around 4,000 students, let's say there is 4,000 students in your school, then 4,000 file covers for that year, right? 4,000 file covers to be stored in cupboards. Rather than doing that, if they just scan the documents, let's say one student will have a birth certificate, right? And then if he came from another school, then the leaving certificate and the character certificate, no problem. You just scan it and make it electronic. If you make it electronic, no need of any hassle, no need of any papers, because papers, they can get diminished also, they can get destroyed. Let's say there is a fire at school. Mistakenly there was a fire. So all of the original birth certificates gone. Original BC, they asked for the original BC, right? Original birth certificate. So if it was at school, then everything will be gone if there was a fire. But if it is in a computer, if it was in an electronic database, then what is the advantage that you have? If you had stored your data in an electronic database, you can have a backup. Your backup will be in a pen drive or a hard disk. What is backup? What is a backup? Backup means you are taking a copy of your data and storing it in another place, right? You are taking a copy of your electronic database and storing it in a pen drive or a hard disk and putting it in a safe place. Or you can have a backup in the cloud also. Cloud means on the internet. So no fire can destroy the cloud storage. That is again another advantage of having electronic database rather than a manual database, right? So you can store a lot of data in a very small space, and even if you lose your data, you can get it back if you had taken a backup. So you can easily back up your data if you are using an electronic document. How are you going to back up the manual database? If you want to take a backup of manual database, you have to take a photocopy of all the documents you have. Let's say 4,000 students in a school. Then if you want to take a backup of all the birth certificates of 4,000 students, what are you going to do? Take 4,000 photocopies of all the 4,000 birth certificates and store it somewhere. Again, another place. You need a big place to store that, right? Isn't it a headache? It is, right? So that is why electronic database is much fruitful. It is easier, right? Okay. And one more thing, if there is a lot of data, right? For example, I'll tell you, think about Cargill's Food City, or else in Sri Lanka, we know that, right? Cargill's, or else is Keel's, or any supermarket. I'll take Cargill's, right? I always talk about Cargill's. Okay, so Cargill's, now you might have been to Cargill's. Okay, so if you go to Cargill's, you have around 4 or 5, more than 3 somehow, right? Let's say there's around 5 counters. Okay, so let's say there is around how much? 500 customers for a day, right? So if they are going to write down each and every transaction, right? They are going to write down each and every transaction that is happening on that day. Let's say one customer comes to the shop, right? Sorry, Cargill's. One customer comes in. Customer buys around 5 items or 10 items. Let's say if it is a manual database, if it is a manual system, then they'll take a bill book, write down, okay, sugar 500 grams, okay, rice, biscuit, chocolate, milk, so and so. So how much time would it take? Okay, one bill generated okay, this is your bill, this much is the amount. So they'll take the payment and the transaction would be done. So for 500 customers, they'll be issuing 500 manual bills if it is a manual system. Okay. Now at the end of the day, what should they do? An accountant has to calculate how much sales for today, what are the items reduced from the inventory, right? What are the items that were sold today, how much were sold, how much sales, how much profit. Okay. Now there are 500 bills that were given for that day, right? How much time would it take? Now let's say that accountant takes one bill, and then the accountant, if it is a manual system, takes one bill and then he sees, okay, sugar 500 grams, okay, he wrote it somewhere. Basmati rice 2 kilograms, okay, wrote it with the price, selling price. Biscuit, okay, chocolate, okay, right, let's say these 5 items. Okay, he kept the bill and took the other bill. Okay, sugar 2 kilograms, okay, then adding another 2 kilograms with that 500 grams, right, 500 grams plus 2 kilograms now. So again he's going through rice, there is no rice here, okay, there is chocolate, there is biscuit, there is milk, right, there is some other items, vegetables or sometimes cereals, whatever, right. So when he's writing the bill, right, let's say he wrote a lot of items. Now in Cargills, how many items do you have? How many items do you have in Cargills? Probably 1 million items, right, different kinds of items. So he went to the other page of the ledger and he's starting to write the new items. Now again he came across basmati rice in the 43rd bill. Let's say 43rd bill, 40th bill, let's say 40th bill. He took the 40th bill and he saw basmati rice 7 kilograms. I wrote basmati somewhere. Now he's thinking, okay, I wrote basmati somewhere. Where is it? So he'll turn the page and he'll go from the beginning. Okay, where is basmati? Here. Earlier it was 2 kilograms basmati. Now 2 plus 7 he's writing. So if the accountant is to write all these transactions of all the 500 bills of that day, how much time would it take? How much time is it going to take to analyze all those bills? It might take at least 2 or 3 days, right? So if he is calculating the accounts of one day, right, if he is calculating the bills of one day for 3 days, if he takes 3 days to calculate all the bills that were generated in one day, what about the next day? The next day also he might have another 500 bills. Then he might take another 2 or 3 days. So what will he do in the other days? Now for the first day he took 2 or 3 days. So what about the second and third day? Second and third day he'll have another 500 bills. 1000 bills will be there and he is completing the analysis of the first day, right? So it is a very tiresome task when you do it manually. You need more manpower, right? So let's say one person can't do it within a day. So if it takes 2 or 3 days, then you'll hire around 5 or 6 people to do it within one night before Cargills is open for the other day, so that you can manage your accounting, right? So if you are hiring 6 people, then you have to pay for 6 people. That is again costly, right? So manual database, you need more manpower and it consumes a lot of time. But on the other hand, if it is an electronic device, if it is an electronic database, then you know how it is, right? In Cargills, it is electronic. So they just show it to the barcode, just put the amount of items, right, the quantity of items, give you the bill, it is automatically generated. At the end of the day, let's say they are closing Cargills at 10 o'clock at night, or else at 9 o'clock, let's say, after 9 o'clock, they just have to click on a button. That's it. They just click on the button, all the sales will be calculated, how many items were sold in these categories, what number of biscuits, what number of rice, how much sugar, how much milk, so and so and so. All the list will be printed, right? The whole list will be printed within 1 or 2 minutes, right? And you'll get a full summary of the sales, profit, and the number of items remaining in the inventory. So this is the advantage of having an electronic database, alright? Or else, if you try to do it manually, just imagine, okay? Imagine doing it manually. If it is a peak season, then it's going to be a headache again. There will be many customers waiting on rows while you keep on writing those stuff, right? So you see, these are very fruitful if you are having an electronic database. Alright? So I have discussed the advantages of having databases, right? The features of a database, and then the comparison between manual and electronic databases. So that's it for this video. We'll be discussing relational database. Relational. So in our next video, we'll be discussing relational database. Right? Till then, stay tuned and share this video with your friends so that they can benefit too. I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.